This story is titled, My Girlfriend Texted Me from Another City That She Cheated with Her Coworker and Called Me Names. So I put all her stuff on the street and changed houses, but 2 days later, police called me. Hey Reddit, I'm a 30-year-old civil engineer working at a construction company where I make decent money. I'm not rich by any means, but I'm doing all right for myself. I own my house outright. Bought it when I was 25, which was before I met my ex-wife. I drive a paid-off Ford Ranger and consider myself pretty smart with money. My dad always taught me an important lesson. Save first, spend second. It's advice that served me well throughout my 20s. About 3 years ago, I met Rebecca at my buddy David's barbecue. She was 27 at the time and worked as a customer service representative at an insurance office downtown, making around $30,000 a year. But damn, she was gorgeous. Like seriously out of my league gorgeous. She had long dark hair and was always dressed perfectly with flawless makeup. She was the complete package, and I was immediately hooked like a fish on a line. Looking back now, I should have seen the red flags from day one, but hindsight is 20/20. Our first real date was a perfect example of what was to come. She conveniently forgot her purse, so I had to pay for this $110 dinner at a fancy steakhouse. She ordered the most expensive ribeye on the menu, plus an appetizer and dessert. When I mentioned it later, nicely mind you, she hit me with, "A real man always takes care of his woman," accompanied by this little giggle that should have made me run for the hills. But I was 27 and thinking with the wrong head, if you catch my drift. The entire dating phase was expensive as hell. Every single date had to be at nice restaurants. She constantly needed new outfits for everything we did. She wanted flowers, just because. And she even expected me to pay for her gas when she drove to see me. I was probably spending between $350 to $450 a month just on dating expenses alone. My buddies kept joking that I was whipped, but I genuinely thought I was just being a good boyfriend and treating her right. We got married after dating for about 22 months, and the wedding cost me $21,000. She wanted the perfect fairy tale day and kept adding things to the plan with every conversation we had. The flowers went from $900 to $1,400. The DJ package went from basic to premium. And whenever I suggested we could scale back to save some money, she'd start crying about how I didn't want her to be happy. "This is every girl's dream day," she would say through tears. I ended up paying for everything, including her $1,800 wedding dress that she wore for exactly 4 hours. After we got married, Rebecca quit her job because she claimed the commute was too stressful, and it was only 30 minutes each way. She said she wanted to focus on being a proper wife and maybe starting a family, which sounds sweet in theory, except she didn't cook. We ordered takeout 5 to 6 nights a week. She didn't clean either, and I'd come home to the same mess I'd left in the morning. She didn't do laundry, so my work clothes would pile up until I did it myself on weekends. What did she do all day? Online shopping, getting her nails done for $70 every 2 weeks, meeting her equally entitled friends for lunch at expensive cafes, and watching Netflix. Our monthly expenses went from $3,100 when I was single to almost $4,600 as a married couple. I was basically funding her entire lifestyle while working 55-plus hour weeks. She got a new job about 10 months ago at this marketing company called Summit Marketing, making $37,000 a year. Her new boss was this guy, Marcus, a 34-year-old male who drives a leased BMW and thinks he's some kind of business genius. She started talking about him constantly, and I mean constantly. Marcus says the market is changing. Marcus thinks I have real potential. Marcus invited the whole team to a networking event. I figured she just respected him professionally and was excited about having a boss who seemed to believe in her potential. Looking back now, it shows just how naive I was about what was really going on. Over the past few months, she'd been working late nights more and more frequently, claiming there were important projects that needed her attention. She was going to team-building events almost every week, which seemed excessive, but she insisted it was crucial for her career development. She bought tons of new clothes, started going to the gym religiously, which was completely out of character since she used to call exercise torture, and got a completely new hairstyle that must have cost a fortune. When I complimented these changes and told her how great she looked, she said she was finally investing in herself and growing as a person. I actually thought my wife was becoming more confident and independent, which I was genuinely happy about. It turns out she was just getting ready to trade up to what she thought was a better option. So last Monday, April 15th, Rebecca was supposed to be at some leadership retreat in Las Vegas. She'd been talking about it non-stop for 3 weeks leading up to it, going on and on about what an incredible opportunity it was. She bought a whole new wardrobe specifically for this trip, got her hair highlighted, and even got a spray tan. She was really excited about the networking opportunities and claimed she'd be learning from industry leaders who could help advance her career. I helped her pack her bags on Sunday night, and honestly, she packed like she was going on a damn honeymoon rather than a work conference. She brought fancy dresses, new lingerie, and her best jewelry. When I jokingly mentioned that it seemed like a lot for a work conference, she said, "You never know who you'll meet," and winked at me. I should have known right then that something was seriously wrong. Monday night, I'm laying in bed around 3:15 a.m. when my phone buzzes with a text from Rebecca. There was a photo attached, and I figured she was just letting me know she'd gotten to the hotel safely, or maybe sending me a picture from some fancy restaurant they'd taken the group to. Holy shit, was I wrong about that? The photo showed Rebecca and Marcus standing outside some tacky wedding chapel called Chapel of Hearts in Las Vegas. Both of them were holding up marriage certificates and grinning like they'd won the lottery. She was wearing this white sundress that I had bought her for her birthday last year, and he was in a wrinkled button-down shirt that looked like he'd slept in it. The text message that accompanied the photo said, "Just married Marcus, been fucking him for 6 months. You pathetic loser, your boring-ass personality made this too easy. Enjoy being alone forever." I just stared at that photo for probably 35 minutes straight. My brain couldn't process what I was seeing. 6 months. 6 fucking months she'd been cheating on me. I started thinking back through the timeline, and everything clicked into place like puzzle pieces. All those late nights at the office suddenly made perfect sense. The team-building dinners, the way she'd guard her phone like it contained nuclear codes, how she started doing her makeup every single day even just to go grocery shopping. The new gym membership she was so excited about, all the new lingerie that I stupidly thought was for my benefit. It was all for him. I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach and set my chest on fire at the same time. 3 years of my life, almost $27,000 spent on our wedding, thousands more supporting her while she wasn't working, and she'd been cheating on me for half a year while I was working overtime to pay for her lifestyle. The betrayal was so complete and calculated that I could barely wrap my head around it. After sitting there like a zombie staring at my phone for what felt like an eternity, I finally typed back one word. Okay. Then I got to work, and this is where Rebecca really fucked herself over in ways she never could have anticipated. You see, Rebecca was always completely terrible with money and never paid attention to our finances. She'd hand me bills and say, "Handle this boring stuff," whenever anything financial came up. Everything, and I mean everything, was in my name. The house, all the bank accounts, both cars, even her credit cards were just authorized user cards on my accounts. She never wanted to deal with what she called boring money stuff, always insisting that I handle all the financial responsibilities. This complete disinterest in our financial arrangements turned out to be the biggest mistake of her cheating life. By 4 a.m., I had systematically destroyed her entire financial existence with the precision of a surgeon. I canceled every single one of her credit cards. She had 4 of them. I changed all the passwords to every account she had access to and removed her as an authorized user on everything. I transferred all the money from our joint checking account, about $1,800, to my personal savings account that only I had access to. Then I called Peterson's 24-hour locksmith service because I wasn't done yet. I took screenshots of every single transaction, every account balance, and every legal document I could think of. I wanted a complete paper trail of everything before she could try to claim I'd stolen anything that belonged to her. The locksmith was this gruff old guy named Frank who showed up at 4:50 a.m. in a beat-up truck. When I explained the situation to him, he just nodded knowingly and said, "Fourth cheating wife this month, son. They never think ahead, do they?" It cost me $200, but Frank had all new deadbolts installed by 6:15 a.m. He even changed the garage door code and deactivated her key fob for good measure. While Frank worked on securing my house, I went through every financial record I could find, and it turns out Rebecca had been way busier than I thought. She'd been using our grocery money to buy gifts for Marcus. I found receipts for expensive cologne, dress shirts, and even a $450 watch that had been charged to our household expenses card. She'd been financing her affair with my money for months, essentially making me an unwilling participant in funding her betrayal. I went back to sleep around 6:30 a.m. and honestly, I slept better than I had in months. There's something weirdly peaceful about finally knowing the truth, even when it's devastating. At least the uncertainty and nagging feeling that something was wrong was finally over. Around 9:15 a.m., I was woken up by aggressive pounding on my front door that sounded like someone was trying to break it down. I looked through the peephole and saw two police officers standing there, both looking annoyed as hell. The older cop said, "Sir, we received multiple calls about a domestic dispute. Your wife claims you've locked her out of her residence and stolen her property and money." I opened the door and immediately showed them the Las Vegas marriage photo on my phone. "Officers, she's not my wife anymore. She married someone else about 7 hours ago." The older cop, who was probably in his mid-50s, raised his eyebrows so high they almost disappeared under his hat. The younger cop was clearly fighting back a smile while trying to stay professional. "She's also claiming financial abuse, theft, and domestic violence," the older cop continued. I had all my documentation ready in a folder because I'd anticipated this exact scenario. "Officers, here's the deed showing I purchased this house in 2017, 2 years before we even met. Here are the credit card statements showing she was just an authorized user on my accounts. Here's documentation of my bank accounts showing everything is in my name. I haven't touched any of her personal belongings, and I've never laid a hand on her." They asked to see the marriage text to verify it was real and asked me to forward it to them. The timestamp clearly showed 3:17 a.m., and the photo was obviously recent. The older cop radioed back to whoever was on the other end and said, "Ma'am, this appears to be a civil matter that you'll need to resolve through attorneys. We cannot compel someone to provide access to property if you've legally married another person." I could hear Rebecca absolutely losing her goddamn mind through their radio from wherever she was calling from. She was screaming something about abuse and theft and demanding they arrest me immediately. The cops asked if I planned to destroy any of her belongings, and I assured them that everything would be packed up safely and ready for pickup. They left after giving me the standard warning about not destroying property and keeping things civil. As soon as the police drove away, I started packing all of Rebecca's crap into boxes and trash bags. It took me about 4.5 hours, but the process felt surprisingly therapeutic. Every designer outfit I'd paid for, every piece of jewelry I'd bought her, every book and decoration and random item she'd accumulated over our 3 years together, all of it went into containers that I organized neatly in the garage. Around 2:00 p.m., Rebecca showed up with her whole support network in tow. There was Marcus looking like he'd rather be getting a root canal without anesthesia. Her mom Linda was there too, the woman who had always thought I wasn't successful enough for her precious princess. And her sister Nicole, who was basically Rebecca's evil twin but somehow even worse. Marcus looked absolutely miserable, and his expensive BMW was parked in my driveway like some kind of statement piece. But the guy behind the wheel looked like he was questioning every life choice that had led him to this moment. He kept checking his phone nervously and wouldn't make eye contact with me. I could practically see him doing mental math about how much his new wife was going to cost him financially. Linda immediately went on the attack. "You can't just lock her out of her own home. This is illegal and we're calling the police again." "Feel free," I said calmly. "They already came by this morning. They said it's a civil matter since your daughter married someone else." "This is financial abuse," Nicole screamed, pointing her finger at me like some kind of prosecutor. "You can't just cut off all her money and leave her stranded." "It was never her money," I replied, pulling out my folder of documents. "Every account, every credit card, every asset is in my name. Want to see the paperwork?" That's when I dropped the bomb that made Marcus go pale as a ghost. "By the way, I'll be forwarding your wedding photos to HR at Summit Marketing tomorrow morning. I'm sure they'll be very interested to know about their supervisor marrying a subordinate employee." Marcus's face went completely white. "You wouldn't do that. Watch me. You see, I'd done my homework. Summit Marketing has a strict anti-fraternization policy, especially between supervisors and their direct reports. It's clearly stated in their employee handbook that romantic relationships between different levels of management can result in immediate termination. I'd looked it up on their website while I was documenting everything else. Rebecca was full-blown ugly crying at this point, with mascara running down her cheeks in black streams. "You're destroying my life over a stupid mistake." 6 months of cheating isn't a mistake, Rebecca. It's a lifestyle choice. I was confused. I didn't know what I wanted. You seemed pretty sure when you married him this morning. Marcus tried to step in with some bullshit about emotions running high and working this out like adults. I shut that down real quick. You fucked my wife for 6 months while I paid her bills. We're way past adult conversations. I'd already packed all of Rebecca's belongings into boxes, garbage bags, and containers. It had taken me most of the morning, but I'd been thorough. Every piece of clothing, every toiletry, every book and knickknack and random item she'd accumulated over 3 years was organized and ready to go. "You have exactly 2 hours to load everything and get off my property," I told them. After that, it's going to the curb for trash pickup. The absolute best part of this whole shit show was watching Rebecca try to pay for the U-Haul rental. She confidently pulled out her wallet and handed over her credit card. Declined. She tried a second card with a confused look on her face. Declined. Then a third card, this time with panic in her eyes. Declined. Marcus had to step in and pay the $140 rental fee, and I could see him doing rapid mental calculations about how much money this woman was going to cost him. His expression went from annoyed to concerned to borderline terrified in about 30 seconds. While they loaded the boxes, Linda kept making threats about lawyers and lawsuits. Nicole kept calling me an asshole and a psychopath. Rebecca kept crying and begging me to talk about this like rational people. But the real entertainment was watching Marcus realize what he'd gotten himself into. This wasn't some romantic affair anymore. This was his new financial reality. A wife with no money, no credit, no assets, and apparently no ability to support herself whatsoever. 2 days later, my lawyer called with news that made my whole week. I'd hired this guy, Thomas Chen, who specializes in messy divorces and has a reputation for not taking any shit from cheating spouses. Your wife is trying to claim she was emotionally manipulated into the Las Vegas marriage, Thomas said, and I could hear him trying not to laugh. She wants the marriage annulled and is demanding half your house because you were technically still married when she left for the conference. Can she actually pull that off? I asked. She literally sent you photographic proof of adultery and bigamy. She's completely screwed. This is going to be the easiest case of my entire career. But Thomas had done some digging that made things even more interesting. It turns out Marcus's financial situation isn't nearly as solid as his leased BMW would suggest. He's been living paycheck to paycheck and has about $20,000 in credit card debt. His last girlfriend left him because he couldn't afford to split dinner bills 50-50. Through our mutual friend Ryan, I found out that Marcus had been bragging to coworkers about his rich girlfriend and how he was going to upgrade his lifestyle through this relationship. He thought Rebecca had money because she was always buying expensive stuff and talking about investments and savings accounts. He had no idea she was just racking up debt on my credit cards the entire time. My IT buddy Chris helped me recover some very interesting text messages between Rebecca and Marcus from her old phone. When she upgraded to a new iPhone last month, the phone store had screwed up the data transfer and left everything recoverable on the old device. These messages went back almost 8 months and painted a picture that made me physically sick. Rebecca wasn't just cheating. She was methodically planning to destroy my life while pretending to be a loving wife. Some highlights from their conversation that I'll never forget. Rebecca texting, "He's so fucking clueless, LOL. Works overtime to pay for my life while I'm planning my escape. This is too easy." Marcus responding, "When are you going to leave him?" Rebecca, "After I figure out how to get half his shit. Been moving money from our grocery budget to my secret account. Almost have enough for our fresh start, baby." Marcus, "You're so smart. He has no idea what's coming." Rebecca, "The best part is he thinks I'm becoming more independent and confident. If only he knew I was just getting ready to trade up to a real man." That secret account was news to me. It turns out Rebecca had opened a savings account in her name only and had been systematically stealing from our household budget for almost a year. She'd been taking out $250 to $350 in cash every week for groceries, but our actual grocery receipts averaged maybe $95 to $140. The rest went straight into her escape fund. She'd stolen over $9,000 from our household expenses to finance her affair and her exit strategy. When I posted screenshots of those text messages on Facebook, with phone numbers blocked out for privacy, Rebecca's victim narrative completely imploded. But instead of backing down and accepting responsibility for what she'd done, she decided to go completely nuclear and destroy what was left of her reputation. She started a massive social media campaign, claiming I was a financial abuser who controlled every aspect of her life and psychologically manipulated her into seeking comfort elsewhere. Her mom and sister shared these posts everywhere and tagged mutual friends to make sure everyone saw them. Some people actually believed her bullshit at first, until they saw the recovered text messages proving she'd been planning this betrayal for almost a year while stealing money to fund it. Then Rebecca really lost her damn mind and started doing increasingly crazy shit that made everyone realize just how unhinged she actually was. She convinced her dad to call my boss, claiming I was harassing and stalking his daughter and demanding I be fired for being a danger to women. My supervisor Kevin already knew the whole story because it's a small town and word travels fast. He basically told her dad to get lost or face harassment charges himself. She tried to break into my house at 3:30 a.m. on Friday night, and my new security cameras caught everything in perfect detail. She was screaming about her grandmother's ring and how I'd stolen her inheritance. Except she'd sold that ring 9 months ago to buy a Coach purse, and I had the pawn shop receipt to prove it. She filed a police report claiming I'd stolen and killed her cat and was holding the body hostage. We never owned a cat. I'm allergic to cats and break out in hives if I'm around them for more than 25 minutes. When animal control called me, I offered to take an allergy test to prove it and sent them photos of my prescription antihistamines. She started calling my mom at work, crying about how she'd made a horrible mistake and Marcus meant nothing and was just using her for sex. My mom, bless her heart, told her, "You should have thought about that before planning this for 8 months, sweetie. Actions have consequences." She tried to get back into our church where we got married, claiming I was spiritually abusing her and she needed sanctuary from domestic violence. The pastor, who had counseled us before our wedding, asked her to explain how adultery and bigamy fit into her spiritual journey. She stopped attending after that conversation, but the absolute peak of her entitlement came when I got a phone call that made me question reality itself. Marcus's mom called me at work, and this woman had the unbelievable audacity to demand I man up and do the right thing by taking Rebecca back because Marcus can't handle being married right now, and made an error in judgment during a difficult time. "Are you seriously asking me to take back a woman who cheated on me for 6 months and married your son so he doesn't have to deal with the consequences of his actions?" I asked, genuinely stunned by what I was hearing. "Well, when you put it like that, you sound selfish. Marriage is about forgiveness and commitment. Frankly, you probably weren't meeting her emotional needs if she had to look elsewhere for comfort." I hung up and immediately blocked her number. The sheer nerve of these people was absolutely mind-blowing. That same week, Rebecca sent me a 7-page handwritten letter delivered by her sister, explaining how the affair was actually my fault because I was emotionally unavailable and didn't appreciate what I had. She listed all the ways I'd failed as a husband, including working too much overtime to pay her bills, not planning enough romantic surprises with what little money was left over, and not fighting for our relationship when she started pulling away. While she was fucking her boss, mind you. The letter ended with her demanding I pay for marriage counseling so we could work through this rough patch together. I showed the letter to Thomas, my lawyer, who actually laughed out loud and said it was the most delusional thing he'd ever seen in 22 years of divorce law. He kept it as evidence of her complete disconnect from reality. The divorce hearing was on Friday morning, and it exceeded every fantasy of justice I'd ever had. Rebecca showed up wearing a white dress, not off-white, not cream, but pure white, to divorce court where she was being divorced for committing adultery and marrying another man. Even the court reporter did a double take when she walked in. Her lawyer was some fresh-faced kid named Tyler, who looked like he'd passed the bar exam about 20 minutes ago. He kept shuffling papers nervously and asking for delays while Rebecca whispered frantically in his ear, probably giving him increasingly desperate instructions. Judge Thompson called our case and asked for opening statements. Tyler stood up and immediately started with the most ridiculous argument I'd ever heard. "Your Honor, my client was suffering from severe emotional distress and was coerced into the Las Vegas marriage by her supervisor, Mr. Marcus Davidson. She was not in her right mind and was manipulated by someone in a position of power over her employment." Judge Thompson looked confused. "Are you claiming your client was forced to commit adultery for 6 months?" "Well, no, Your Honor, but the relationship created an unstable mental state that led to poor decision-making." My lawyer, Thomas, stood up with a huge grin on his face. "Your Honor, I have recovered text messages, financial records, and social media posts spanning over 8 months, showing the defendant methodically planning this affair while systematically stealing money from the marital household to fund her exit strategy." He handed over a thick folder of evidence that I'd helped him organize. The judge spent about 12 minutes reviewing everything while the courtroom sat in complete silence. I watched his expression change from professional neutrality to obvious disgust to barely contained amazement. "Mrs. Davidson, or are you using your maiden name now?" the judge asked. "Did you text to Mr. Davidson and I quote, 'Can't wait to see the look on his stupid face when I take him for everything he's worth'?" Rebecca turned bright red and started stammering. That was taken out of context, Your Honor. What context makes planning to financially destroy your husband acceptable?" Silence. "And did you systematically withdraw money from household accounts under the pretense of grocery shopping while actually funding a secret savings account?" More silence. "And did you purchase gifts for your paramour using marital funds without your husband's knowledge?" Rebecca started crying but couldn't form words to respond. Judge Thompson looked disgusted. I've seen some pretty terrible behavior in my courtroom over the years, but this level of premeditated deception is remarkable. Divorce is granted immediately. Rebecca got her personal belongings, her car, a 2021 Honda Civic with $12,500 still owed on it, and absolutely nothing else. But here's the beautiful twist that made everything worth it. Since I'd paid for Rebecca's marketing certification program last year, which cost $2,400, and had supported her career development throughout our marriage, she actually owed me spousal support. 6 months at $380 per month. The look of absolute rage and disbelief on her face when the judge announced that decision was worth every sleepless night I'd had over this whole mess. Outside the courthouse, Linda started screaming about how I was stealing from her baby and destroying an innocent woman's life. Nicole tried to throw her coffee at me but missed completely and hit some random guy walking by, who then started yelling at her about assault. Marcus wasn't even there for the hearing. According to the screaming match that broke out between Linda and Marcus's mom, who had shown up to support young love, he'd called in sick to work and was having second thoughts about everything. Rebecca completely lost it in the courthouse parking lot. She had a full mental breakdown with screaming, crying, hyperventilating, the works. She kept wailing, "This isn't how it was supposed to go. You've ruined everything." Her sister tried to comfort her, saying, "It's okay, honey, you can come stay with me until you figure things out." Rebecca looked at her with pure disgust and snapped, "I can't live in your shithole apartment. It smells like cat litter and failure." Even Nicole looked hurt after that comment. Fast forward 6 months, and the karma gods have been working overtime. Marcus got fired from Summit Marketing exactly 1 week after I sent HR the wedding photos. It turns out my complaint triggered an internal investigation that revealed he'd been having inappropriate relationships with multiple female employees over the past 2 years. Rebecca wasn't his first victim. She was just the dumbest one. He couldn't make the payments on his leased BMW and had to return it to the dealership. Last I heard, he was driving a 2009 Honda Accord and living with his parents while working at some dead-end sales job, making about half what he used to make. Rebecca got fired from Summit 2 weeks later, officially for creating a hostile work environment, but really because nobody wanted to work with the woman who'd caused their popular supervisor to get terminated. She burned through her secret savings account in about 7 weeks, trying to maintain her lifestyle, and had to move back in with Linda and her stepdad, sleeping in her childhood bedroom with unicorn wallpaper at age 27. Linda was furious because she'd been planning to convert that room into a craft space and now had to deal with her dramatic adult daughter having daily mental breakdowns. Rebecca couldn't find another job because word had gotten around about the whole situation. It's a small town where everybody knows everybody, and nobody wants to hire someone with a reputation for sleeping with supervisors and causing workplace drama. But here's where the story gets really good. Why I saved the best for last. 3 weeks ago, I got a phone call that made my entire year. It was from an unknown number, so I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Hello?" I said. Immediately, there was uncontrollable sobbing on the other end. "Please don't hang up," Rebecca's voice said through tears. "I know I don't deserve to talk to you, but I'm desperate." I didn't hang up, but I didn't say anything either. I made the biggest mistake of my entire life. The biggest mistake anyone has ever made. Marcus was using me, and I was too stupid and selfish to see it. I threw away the best thing that ever happened to me for some asshole who never cared about me. Still silence from me. I never stopped loving you. I know that sounds like bullshit after everything I did, but it's true. I was confused and scared, and I made horrible decisions, but my feelings for you were always real. "Okay," I finally said. "We can work this out. We can go to counseling. We can start over. We can do whatever you want. I'll sign a prenup. I'll get a job and pay you back every penny I took. I'll do anything." "No. Please, you have to understand. I was having some kind of mental breakdown. I wasn't thinking clearly. People make mistakes." "Rebecca, you didn't make a mistake. You executed a plan for 8 months while stealing my money and lying to my face every single day. I know it looks bad, but it doesn't look bad. It is bad. You're a bad person who did bad things to someone who loved you." The crying got worse. "I have nothing. My parents hate having me there. I can't find a job anywhere. I have no money. My car's getting repossessed next week. Nobody will even talk to me. Sounds like consequences. What am I supposed to do? Figure it out. You're a grown woman. You can't just abandon me like this. I'm falling apart. You abandoned our marriage when you started fucking Marcus. Everything after that is your problem." I was about to hang up when she played what I guess she thought was her trump card. "I'm pregnant." Long pause. "Congratulations. Is it Marcus's?" I don't know. It could be yours." No, it couldn't be. We haven't had sex in 4 months and you've been on birth control the entire time we were married. Try again. More sobbing. Okay, it's probably Marcus's, but he won't return my calls. His mom hung up on me when I tried to tell him. Still not my problem. How can you be so cold? We were married. We loved each other. You loved my bank account. I loved someone who didn't exist. I hung up. 2 days later, Linda called me. Linda, the woman who had spent 3 years telling everyone I wasn't good enough for her precious daughter. You need to help Rebecca, she said without even saying hello. She's your wife. She's Marcus's wife. That marriage doesn't count. She wasn't in her right mind. Take it up with the state of Nevada. They seem to think it counts. She's family. You took vows. She broke those vows when she committed adultery multiple times for months. Everyone makes mistakes. You're supposed to forgive. Some mistakes are unforgivable. She's pregnant and scared and has nowhere to go. She can go to Marcus. He's the father. Marcus won't talk to her. His family wants nothing to do with her. Sounds like a pattern. What kind of man abandons a woman carrying his child? Ask Marcus and get a paternity test. You're being cruel. I'm being realistic. Your daughter made her choices and now she gets to live with them. Linda started screaming about how I was heartless and selfish and how she was going to tell everyone what kind of person I really was. I reminded her that everyone already knew exactly what kind of person Rebecca was and hung up. But the absolute best part came last week. Marcus called me. Marcus, the ball's on this guy. Hey man, I know things got weird between us, he started. You fucked my wife. Right, about that. Look, Rebecca's been staying at my place and honestly, she's a lot, really high maintenance and dramatic. My mom thinks maybe you should consider taking her back. Your mom should mind her own business. She's threatening to sue me for child support and emotional damages and all kinds of crazy stuff. Can you just talk to her? Maybe calm her down? Not my circus, not my monkeys. Come on, bro. Guy to guy, she's technically your wife. She's your wife. You married her. That was a huge mistake. Your mistake, your consequences. Look, I can't afford a baby right now. I'm barely making rent. You've got a good job, a house, you're established, and you thought you could just take all that by stealing my wife? It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. Now you get to figure out how to pay for the life you wanted. She's completely insane. She expects me to take care of everything while she sits around crying all day. Sounds familiar. I can't do this, man. I'm not cut out for this kind of responsibility. Should have thought about that before you stuck your dick in a married woman. I hung up on him too. Yesterday, I got a Facebook message from Nicole. My sister is having a complete mental breakdown and it's your fault. She can't eat, can't sleep, cries constantly, and is talking about hurting herself. She made one mistake and you're destroying her entire life over it. I replied, she made 197 mistakes, one for each day she was cheating on me. If she's threatening self-harm, call a professional. I'm not responsible for the consequences of her choices. Then I blocked her too. Right now, I'm sitting in my paid-off house, making good money at a job I enjoy, and dating an amazing woman named Victoria who thinks this whole story is both hilarious and educational. She calls Rebecca the cautionary tale and brings me coffee with loyal wife written on the cup as a joke. Victoria is a nurse who makes her own money and pays her own bills. She's never once asked me to fund her lifestyle. We split expenses fairly, and she actually argues with me when I try to pay for too much because she believes in independence and equality. Imagine that. Rebecca is 27 years old, unemployed, living in her childhood bedroom, pregnant with a baby whose father won't acknowledge her existence, and facing the reality that actions have consequences. Marcus is 34 years old, living with his parents, working a dead-end job, and learning that stealing another man's wife comes with financial obligations he can't afford. Both of them have reached out multiple times, begging me to fix the problems they created. Both of them seem to genuinely believe that I owe them help because their lives fell apart after they destroyed mine. The audacity is honestly impressive. Sometimes trash really does take itself out. Sometimes karma works exactly the way it's supposed to. The only thing I regret about this entire situation is not seeing the red flags sooner. Like when Rebecca told me her ex-boyfriend before me was controlling and abusive for asking her to pay for her own dinner sometimes and expecting her to contribute to household expenses. I should have known right then that I was dating someone who saw relationships as financial arrangements rather than partnerships. But everything happens for a reason. I'm genuinely grateful this happened before we had kids, or I wasted any more years of my life on someone who saw me as a bank account with benefits. Thanks for reading this novel, everyone. Time to go live my best life now. Rebecca, I know you're probably reading this because you're obsessed with social media and have nothing else to do with your time. Your mom called my mom last week asking if there was any chance I'd consider taking you back for the sake of the baby. My answer is still no. It will always be no. You made your bed when you decided to fuck Marcus for 6 months while spending my money. Now you get to lie in it alone, in your childhood bedroom with unicorn wallpaper. And Marcus, if you're reading this too, thanks for taking the trash off my hands. Enjoy paying child support on a sales associate salary while living in your mom's basement. Hope she was worth destroying both our lives over. To everyone asking in the comments if this is real, every word is true. And I have screenshots, legal documents, and security camera footage to prove all of it. To people saying I should forgive her because everyone makes mistakes, cheating for 6 months while stealing money and planning to destroy someone's life isn't a mistake. It's a character defect. There's a difference. To women DMing me asking if I'm single, I'm very happily taken by someone who actually knows what loyalty means. Finally, to everyone who has shared their own cheating stories in the comments, I'm sorry you went through that shit. But I hope seeing this gives you some hope that cheaters really do get what's coming to them eventually. Justice served, case closed, story over.